My name is Supesh Patel, editor at Trade Finance Global, and today we're at Cybos Toronto. I'm delighted to be joined by Carlos Teixeira at Finastra and Ravesh Lala at IBM. Welcome to Trade Finance Talks.
Thank you, Supesh.
Thank you. So I guess to start off with, quick introduction. Who are you, where are you from, and what do you do? Carlos, over to you.
So Carlos Teixeira, originally from Portugal. I work for Finastra for 18 years now, and I look after all our global industry principles in terms of market trends and where we should play and how we should play.
Thank you, Carlos. Ravesh.
And I'm Ravesh Lala. I'm part of IBM. I've been in IBM for about 27 years, different parts of the business. But in my current role, I focus on hybrid cloud, right? Hybrid cloud solutions, really transforming, core mission-critical business processes using the IBM technology stack.
Thank you very much, and super exciting at the forefront of trade. But let's take a bit of a step back, and Carlos, perhaps you can talk through some of the challenges that banks are currently facing when it comes to global trade and the pace of change in today's environment.
Yeah, and again, being exposed to global markets and especially within the trade finance, which is my background, it's trade finance. Before with Finastra, I worked for a bank back in Portugal for several years within the trade finance space. And in reality, when you look to the challenges, you always start by customer demands, which is growing. That's the reality. And at the same time, when you look how the business has transformed, more digital. So now it's digital at front. COVID pushed us forward in terms of the digital adoption. But at the same time is also the challenges in terms of addressing market needs, being from a regulation point of view, and even from a digital transformation. So digitization, it is a key today for every single bank where they do want to roll out quick digital products in order to do digital adoption from a customer point of view, which then brings other challenges, which is how do I play in digital? How do I run processes from the ground zero or from the source, from the customer into my operations? And beyond that, how can I automate all this process? And with all that, there's a technology play, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So summarizing, consumer demand, regulatory issues, and digitalization. Ravesh, are you seeing the same challenges from an IBM perspective?
Absolutely, and I'll expand on the digitization thought because we're seeing a huge amount of demand in just trying to digitize trade finance. But I'll just peel the onion back. What's really driving that, right? There are actually several factors. One is sort of the geopolitics, what's happening around the globe. Things like inflation, right? Access to capital. Things like, what we now have started to use a new term called friendshoring, right? Nearshoring and friendshoring, right? So being able to take your global supply chain and be able to reprogram the DNA of the supply chain at a moment's notice, right? That's only possible when you drive the digitization, right? It's really hard to take an analog process and completely move it around. But if you have the digital interconnectivity between the buyers and the suppliers and the banks and the insurance firms, you can then start to pivot and reprogram your digital supply chains, right? So that focus on digitization is because of a lot of the inflation, access to capital, geopolitics, right? That's actually driving a lot of that. So it's good for us from a technology perspective because all the legacy systems do need to transform to take advantage of digitization.
Thank you very much, and thanks for painting a picture of those macroeconomics, particularly what's going on the trade front. I guess, Carlos, when it comes to digitalization, the big thing, the hot topic right now is the adoption of MLETR, the Model Law on Electronic Transferable Records, or equivalent, such as the Electronic Trade Documents Act in the United Kingdom. I guess with that coming to fore, or by the time of publication of this video, it will be in force. How do you see that increasing and accelerating the adoption of digital trade?
I think that I would start by taking a step backwards, right? And we look at just 2 weeks ago, I was in Singapore, and we need to looking back when they adopted a couple of years ago already the rules from an MLTR point of view, or even where I'm based out of the UAE, Abu Dhabi Global Markets adopted them as a couple of years ago. And when you start looking, it's a step in the right direction, I would say. Is it enough? No. It's not enough. There needs to be a constant adoption from a process point of view. And that brings us back to the technology discussion. While we have the regulation doing a step in the right direction, where is putting the whole digital transformation at the core front of the regulation, and now ensuring that we are not backfilled by paper, because the problem we have today with digitization is that it's all good until it goes bad. And then we are back to courts, and the court requires paper, right? So it is absolutely a great step. And with a wider adoption of these rules, we will see even more technology taking a front row in terms of leveraging this regulation, and more importantly, in applying them into the technology itself. So I see as in the future key and playing an important and pivotal role, but there's still a lot of catch up to do. And we look back to trade finance, which has been heavily driven by paper for many, many years. We still have a lot to do as well, even for technology providers from that point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the paper piece, there are billions of papers log jammed in global trade right now. And I guess this also raises lots of ESG and sustainability issues, given the amount of carbon that the shipping sector accounts for. I guess, is there an ESG piece on this that digitalizing trade is going to help combat some of those ESG challenges that we have as an industry?
And I would even go beyond. So the ESG is a great movement, and I look to Finastra and the great work we've been doing. So we've started many years ago by the mode of doing well by doing good, and we actually are driven internally within the way we develop processes, the way that we develop software, ensuring that we apply the same mode and we pass it into our customers from that perspective, with a lot of initiatives from an ESG point of view, but also looking beyond that. When you look to the trade finance gap, which is constantly growing, the reality is that starts at point zero, which is actually the farmers. And if you embrace then the digital transformation with adopting technology, which will be key on that landscape, and ensuring that then you apply the ESG metrics, providing the right financing with the right tools to the right people, you then start expanding into the forefront of how you bring those processes digitally into the operations from a bank. And I always keep on discussing with some of our customers, it all falls apart if I'm not able to do the proper KYC, know your customer, right? And especially when you look to the micro SMEs, and where the financial gap and from a trade finance point of view sits, it is key that we adopt technology to address this issue, right? Yeah. So it is a wider issue that together and with the likes of IBM, we are trying to solve it, right? Yeah. We are taking a step forward to ensure that we adopt the right technology with the right metrics in order to push that barrier forward and address the trade finance gap.
Thank you, Carlos. And I guess, here we are on the collaboration couch. We often talk about bank and tech collaboration. We talk a bit less about technology and technology, two technology vendors collaborating. Can you talk about the IBM and Finastra collaboration?
Absolutely. Before I go there, I want to just, Carlos made a really important point. You started with, the ESG part, the environment. I think the social impacts are actually going to far exceed some of the environmental things, because he talked about know your customer. I think where technology is going to start enabling us around know your supplier, understanding who your suppliers are, right? Are they, down to the farmers, right? And understanding and being able to uplift society, right? So there's a huge technology impact. Now let's talk about how IBM and Finastra are sort of working together. IBM is a tech company. We focus on infrastructure, we focus on software, we focus on AI, we focus a lot on the tooling. Finastra is an applications company. They're focused on the lending, in the trade finance business, right? They're focused on the trade finance applications, right? So if you just think of the three layers that need to transform, right? There is the application stack, which is what they're focused on. Then there's the operational stack, right? We talked a little bit about change management, but in that operational stack or that operational layer is things like AI. How do you use artificial intelligence to actually drive digitization? Because Carlos talked about the courts require paper. So at some point, AI is, you will need to make AI explainable AI. So the court may not require a paper in the future, but they will still require the evidence, right? So there's AI technologies there that will help drive a lot of that. There's a lot of automation that will help drive a lot of the operational efficiency. And then at the end, at the bottommost layer is the infrastructure bit, right? Why that's important is, look, no two banks are the same, right? Everybody's got a different technology footprint, a different architecture, and a different application stack, right? Now, we can't get 6 banks to all adopt the same infrastructure, but what we can do is to start to normalize or abstract the infrastructure complexity so that the banks can start to interoperate, right? It's not just the banks, it's the buyers, it's the suppliers, it's the banks. So there's an entire ecosystem that needs to work together. And so IBM is very focused on, the abstraction for the infrastructure, where we have a cloud that was built for financial services. We have the power architecture, we have the mainframe, in future the quantum. So if you look at any application, there's either an x86 or a mainframe or a power, and in future quantum. So we're really trying to bring that together as hybrid cloud. We're trying to leverage our AI technology to really streamline the operations, get the operational improvements, and then work with partners like Finastra who are bringing the application. So together, we can serve our customers through the entire stack, right?
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. And thank you for explaining, how those different layers interact with each other. Carlos, what are the key benefits of deploying trade innovation on IBM Cloud for financial services, and how will this really help your customers mitigate their customers' risks?
So it goes back, and you mentioned about the collaboration is the couch, right? So we are true believers that collaboration is the new innovation. Right, and while deploying the app side, so the application, and doing what we do best, which is trade finance, well recognized around every single bank, and we see ourselves getting awards left and right. Just last night we got another one from recognition from our investment to the markets, and then it's looking to partners where we can leverage technology, and the cloud technology that IBM provides, it is one of the key that we see in terms of collaborating. And we briefly mentioned about interoperability. We all know that interoperability has been a big issue in terms of leveraging data, leveraging technology, and with the adoption of the cloud from IBM, which was driven initially by a bank in Americas, opened the doors to actually being able to do other things. Being able, not for today, but even thinking about forward looking for the future, where we see other technologies, and we briefly mentioned about quantum computing, which I feel it's going to be a key transformation to the future from a technology point of view, and then being able to leverage like our platform FusionFabric.cloud, where we bring other partners, we bring other players leveraging the same technology, but all point-to-point streamlined. No longer, and we see today, whenever I spend time with some of our customers around the globe, and I ask them, how do you embrace technology, even by leveraging other fintechs? And for them, it's painful. It's a painful process. Well, we, with our technology partners like IBM, we can make that streamlined. We can ensure that we just provide a consumer-based technology stack where other players can come in, plug, and at the same time leverage what best technology has to do. And that's how we see transforming the future of trade finance, and who knows, beyond trade finance, let's say corporate banking or working capital.
How do we remove the paper? How do we remove the pain points? That was Carlos Teixeira at Finastra and Ravesh Lala at IBM, talking to me, Dipesh Patel from Trade Finance Global, here at Sibos Toronto. Thank you both.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.